Welcome to the video on chapter number 2 of the Charlton book. We're going to start right into it with key and tonality. On page number 12, the book is asking you to understand the concept of key. And I got my guitar here to kind of help you through that concept. Basically, for the layperson, there are two tonalities that you need to be aware of, be able to hear, be able to distinguish between the two. They are major and minor. And for lack of a better term, and to keep things simple, major key signatures, major tonalities are happy, bright. For example, if you hear this, you would probably think, lyrics to this should probably be happy and bright, not sad lyrics in any way. And that song, that little diddly that I just made up, is centered around this note. Okay, so if I'm playing along, then I would end up on this sound. Everything is centered around that one note, ta, whether I'm playing this or this or this or this or this, or even jumping into this or this or this, I'm still going to come back to this sound. Okay, so that's the tonality that that particular song is based around. The other tonality is minor. The other key is a minor key for you, for your purposes. And so it's more sad, it's darker sounding, it is. Okay, so if I play the same little song in a minor key, we're still talking about this same note that is centering the song, and no matter what I do, I'm still going to come back to that one sound. Da, and that's the key, the home, or the tonic. So jumping ahead to page number 12, and by the way, you don't need to know scales, you don't need to understand key signature that is on page 13. The other thing, if I can just mention one other thing about key, is modulation. You're going to hear this, you're going to be asked to be able to hear this in the listening sections of further chapters. Modulation is the concept of starting in one key, one home key, and switching to another during the same song. So if I did that, I could describe it by doing this. I'll just take that same simple key in the major key signature and play a little song that modulates into another key. So we're going to start with this home key, home tonality. And now we're in this key, this tonality, we were here. And now we're in this tonality, and I can continue playing a song in that tonality. Okay, and I can modulate back if I wanted to. I'm not going to take the time to do that. Texture, another big topic in chapter number 2, and this is going to be a question that will pretty much be on every listening that you're going to have in future chapters. Texture is the concept of how music is interwoven like cloth. So if you think about texture, textiles, cloth has vertical stitching and horizontal stitching, which work together to create a particular piece of clothing. And some of the stitching is mostly horizontal, some of the stitching is mostly vertical. And it's the same with music. 3 types of textures, which we're going to be talking about: monophonic, homophonic, and polyphonic. And polyphonic can have a couple of different terms which will be presented in the chapter. Contrapunctal music is something that I think is listed on here on page number 14, and yep. And so it's polyphonic. And polyphonic, if you can break it, monophonic, homophonic, break up those words into their compound meanings. Mono meaning one, homo meaning man, actually, which is a little different than monophonic, which I'll explain in a second. Polyphonic, poly, and of course phonic, and each of those is sound. So monophonic means one. Okay, so one distinct sound. Now, that one distinct sound could be actually performed by many different voices. And when I use the term voices, I'm not referring to actually singing voices. I could be referring to any instrument that is playing a single line of music. So a guitar and a voice together. So if I played a little melody on the guitar and I sang that same melody at the same time, it would still be homophonic because we're both doing exactly the same thing at the same time. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb. Two different voices singing the same thing at the same time. Monophonic is very simple. It's rare. You're not going to see it or hear it very often. We hear it mostly in medieval music and Gregorian chant. So if we hear Dies Irae on the recording that I'm going to put up on the website on the Moodle page, you will hear just men, all men, singing exactly the same words at the same time. Okay, monophonic. That's where you're going to get that. Homophonic texture can also refer to one melody with a very light and very similar accompaniment that is not designed to be its own music. I know it gets a little complicated, but a single guitar strummer with a voice, I love the ASAP program, it's going to fill all my needs, etc. Okay, making this up. If I do that, that's homophonic texture. Okay, we're going to get more into that. Polyphonic, lots of fun. This is where the fun part of music is, I think, because polyphonic texture is also called counterpoint, because what it is it's separate different melodies played or performed by different voices at the same time that are weaving in and out from each other. And a great example of counterpoint or polyphonic texture is a fugue. And so I'm going to do a little bit of a fugue here. This is Bach's A minor fugue for solo violin, played by a guitar. And the basic melody is, that's the theme. That's the theme. Now that theme could be played here, or it could be played here, or it could be played here. And so that theme is going to be introduced in different voices while the previous voices are doing other things. Okay? So here's a little bit of that Bach fugue. Next voice. Next voice. Okay, so let me start that again. I can't, it's a little difficult to talk and play at the same time, believe it or not. Now my favorite part, two voices. Second voice. Now third voice. Etc., etc. So that's the concept of polyphony and counterpoint. A lot of fun. Form. Let's talk about form on the next chapter. Sorry, next page. 15. We're talking about form. And the ideas of form are how music is organized into sections. And we're going to get a lot of examples of these in the listening. We'll talk more about them. But essentially, form is the concept of organizing music together. We talk about music in different forms: binary form, ternary form, theme and variation. The fugue that I just played is a type of form. Rondo is a type of form, and these are different terms that are going to be coming at you, and you'll understand that. As we do the listening, you'll get to be able to hear those sections that work together in thematic ways. But ternary form, three-part form, usually A, B, A. Binary form, A, B. Now the reason why we use the letters of the alphabet, the first letter is the first part, this is the first form that the listener, first section that the listener hears. So we use the first letter of the alphabet. A new section is going to get the next letter in the alphabet. When that first section repeats, letter A is back. So we call it A, B, A if it's ternary form. Binary form, simply A, B form. So the first section. Now, you're listening to a piece of music. I had to decide where the sections are, where do they begin, where do they end. There's no roadmap. You have to just, first of all, listen to the whole thing. Decide how long the piece is. Listen carefully for distinct beginning and ending sections and repetition and contrast. Okay? One of the things that makes music music and makes it listen-toable, there's such a thing, is repetition and contrast. And we'll do more of that when we do some of the listening, and you'll get to understand that a little bit better as we go. So the next video that you're going to see is all about listening. So stay tuned for that and check that out. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is not a video, is I'm going to actually do an audio representation of how to do listening, because the sound quality on these videos, not that great. So I will post a audio explanation with some of the listening to help you get through that. Okay? Stay tuned till next.